there, Guitar Heroes? All right, well, today's lesson is an introduction to the E major chord. And we've got a few other positions to talk about, so let's take a few minutes, we'll zoom in and check things out. Okay, let's dig in to the E major chord. Well, our standard open position, and the word open simply means there's strings that your fingers aren't down on. So sometimes we call that the string is fretted, meaning when we push down on these strings, and these are the fret positions. So every time you see this little bar, right, that means these frets are all numbered. I mean, to find your way around, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. And that's what these markings are, and maybe little dots along the top. That's to kind of help you find which position you need to be in. Now, in this case, we're an open chord, E, so we're going to be up here at the top. And here's the way an E looks. E is my favorite chord. What we're doing here is I've got my first finger is now going to be on the third string from the top. So I count up 1, 2, 3, and then these two fingers go on the next two strings, but I'm on the second fret rather than the first. And because this big string is an E and the little string is an E, they sound, you know, you're going to play those open. Now, when you first get started, the first thing you want to know is, I need to use the tips of my fingers. I can't use the pads. I have to use the tips of my fingers. And you can see on my fingers, you can see calluses because I play every day. But when you're first starting out, your fingers might hurt a little bit, right? And that's what everybody experiences. So one thing to kind of keep in mind before we even get started here, get the lightest strings that you can. The lightest strings on a six string steel guitar. We're not talking about nylon, we're talking about steel. Is the gauges start at the smallest, at this string. The ones that I recommend, which are the lightest, are 0.10 or 10s. 0.10 or 10s. That's the gauge of this. It's the lightest gauge, the easiest to press down. Okay, the other thing to kind of keep in mind is the space between the strings and the fretboard. Okay, that space needs to be as close as it can get without buzzing. If you get buzzing, you got to bring the guitar into the repair shop to get that fixed. So this would be your little test. And if you don't get buzzing, then you know you're up, the strings are up high enough. But that's what's really important here, to make sure that the strings are close and you have the lightest gauge. The other thing is make sure they're tuned. If they're not tuned, I don't care how perfectly you got the chord formed, it's not going to sound good if it's not in tune. I use a mobile app sometimes, and it's the Guitar Tuna, T-U-N-A, and you should be able to find it on the Apple store if you got an Apple, and I don't know, probably on the Android one too. I'm not positive about that. There's plenty of them, and it's a free app. There's plenty of free apps that are tuners. You don't have to go out and spend 25 bucks at the guitar store to buy another tuner. They all generally work really well, and this one here is right on your phone, so it's always handy. Okay, so now that we've got our light strings on, we make sure the strings aren't too far from the fretboard, and that's a repair guy issue. And sometimes he can adjust it, and sometimes you can't. And that would, you know, the lower the price guitar, generally speaking, the less likely you'll be able to make adjustments on the string height. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Okay, so we're back over here to the E chord. And when you form the chord, I just keep my fingers on there. I'm going to press, release, press, release, press, release, press, release. It's just part of a little exercise. And then I'm going to even maybe like grab the strings with my fingers and like pull them a little bit. See if you can maybe just see just a little bit of movement. That's going to get that muscle memory intact to know where the fingers need to be. So you're kind of, you know, you're dragging the strings on the fretboard, right? So it's not going to be real easy, and you're bending the strings a little bit, just with an individual finger. So you do that a little bit, press, release, press, release, press, release, And then when you start strumming, the first thing you want to do is make sure that all the strings are clean, that you don't have one of your fingers slightly off or on the wrong string. So it needs to sound like this. We call that arpeggio, as opposed to strumming. Well, it's real easy to tell whether or not I'm goofed up, right? Real easy to tell. So that's probably a better way than to start strumming. When you do strum, drag your pick on the strings. Set the pick right on the top. Just drag it. Just drag it down. I've got a whole lesson just on introduction to strumming, and please see that because that'll help you a lot with the strumming. Okay, so we got our E chord, and this is what it can sound like. Now that pressing and release gives that little rhythm, so it's something that you can work on to you know, basically you can hang on the E for a long time and no one's saying, hey, you need to go to a different chord. Well, we want to talk about a few other places we can play the E. We can play this up the neck too. I can also go up here to the 7th fret. So when we're counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they should have a dot up here. And I'm going to do what we call a bar chord. So if you've tried to work with an A, this is my version, my one finger version of an A. I slide that down, and then I put my bar on the 7th fret, and I got an E here. Now you might say, well, you know, why would I play one or the other? Well, there's all kinds of reasons, because it sounds different because it's up here. How about this? Same thing. Going back and forth between a D and an E, only I'm doing this bar chord thing. So just, and I'm not expecting you to learn this. I got another lesson that's on bar chords. This gives you some flavor. There are other places to play the E. It's not just this one. And that's it. Okay. Next thing I wanted to talk about is another chord that's very, very similar to this, called it E7. So we've got our E down. Now I'm just going to lift this finger. And now I have an E7 as opposed to an E. Now these chords aren't necessarily interchangeable. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times an E7 might be the, you know, if you have some blues song and they're using 7th chords, then the E7 would be one to use. Now this is the simple one. The one that's more, a little more difficult, no question about it, is I get my E chord again, and then I'm going to put my little finger down here on the 3rd fret on the 1st string, and I'm going to get this sound. E, E7, or this one. So they've got different sounds, and there's just different applications, but I just wanted to expose you to that E7, and then obviously that there's a bar chord down here too. And if you like George Thorogood, then this is the part you want to get to. Lots of fun. My favorite chord, E. Okay, I think that's about all I can think of for now. So, you know, the whole key is get back to this first E. Work on those strings, press, release, press, release, press, release, press, release. Do a little arpeggio. Make sure you're nice and clean once you start feeling better about picking. And you can lift up that finger, get that E7. Because now it's ready to go to the next chord. That's really what it's looking for there. In this case, that chord could be A7. All right, so lots of food for thought. I mean, you want to practice, you want to come back to this video over and over again to get through it, because it may take you it took me many months to be able to progress through all that, to know that maybe years is is maybe closer to it, but hopefully you got some exposure and got something out of this lesson. So take it easy out there, get your practice routine going, and you know, we'll see you the next time. Keep on strumming out there.